Lucifer, what do you have for Hammer? You have a couple of things that you want to talk to Hammer.
Yeah,
Why Hammer this week? Are you really passionate about Hammer?
Oh, Hammer. I mean, you know, I'm a horror fan. Obviously, that we talked about that some. I mean, I'm not only that, but definitely had a huge impact on me, and especially in the '80s and '70s and everything. But I mean, for me, I kept looking back, and Hammer was. And I come from the era of right when videotapes were starting, and right before videotapes, and you had to get your midnight movies on like Owl Theater or whatever it was on your TV. You have to wait up to like 10 or 11 or 12 at night to watch it, and anytime a Hammer movie was coming up, you knew you were in for something pretty good. And it's a B movie for sure. But to me, I look at Hammer as like that transition where you have the prestige movies that are starting to kind of change horror. Like you've got Psychos and you've got, you know, Rosemary's Baby, and you got all this stuff happening in the 60s. But Hammer is like your meat and potatoes. It's taking the old school horror franchise, all those Universal movies, your Frankensteins and Draculas and werewolves and Mummy, all of them. It's turning them into bright color. It's giving them good production for a B movie. It's adding cleavage, blood, dismemberment, and things that you wouldn't see that much in the late 50s and 60s. And it really was kind of like, you know, EC Comics, if you heard EC Comics. EC Comics were like all your Tales from the Crypt and Vault of Horror. And they were like, the kids would sneak them because they were like lurid and they were like bad and they were getting banned. And Hammer films are kind of like the movie version of that. You know, I figure in the 60s you've got Hammer, you've got like Roger Corman, and you've got like Russ Meyer. And those are kind of the transgressive B movies that are influencing like so many filmmakers. And that's kind of, I guess, my start. The only thing I would say about them is by the time they were really hitting their stride and doing a lot of their horror in the 60s, especially, they kind of had like an acting troupe. They had a whole group of directors and actors that would appear in a lot of the movies, especially Peter Cushing, which everyone knows eventually ended up in Star Wars as Grand Moff Tarkin in the original Star Wars, and Christopher Lee. And of course, the great Christopher Lee became a star from Hammer movies, and of course went on to greatness in so many other movies. Most notably, of course, the Lord of the you got the Rings trilogy. He was in at least one or two of them, right?
Oh wow, nice. Louis.
And the Great Wicker Man. If you've never seen that, he's amazing. The original Wicker Man.
Was Vincent Price part of the whole Hammer thing, or is that a dumb question?
No. See, Vincent Price is kind of the other side of that, right? So Vincent Price is in the Corman movies. So he's in all the Edgar Allan Poe movies.
Sure. Yeah.
But Edgar Allan Poe movies were like always trying to be a little more. They were still pretty lurid too, but they were a little more artistic, you know.
Got it.
And then it was the Tim Burton versus like the Eli Roths.
Or I would say more like Tim Burton versus like Sam Raimi. You know.
True.
So, but I mean, the only thing I would bring about them is that they did a lot of their stuff in this place called Bray Studios. They had their own studios. Like they would repurpose this building over and over again. And if you start noticing it, you'll notice the same courtyard, the same studio, and they're using it for everything. And they also used Oakley Court, which is this big, scary-looking mansion, which appeared as the mansion in Rocky Horror Picture Show. And they used that for Dracula's castle and various other castles. Anyway,